The Honorable Tony Cardenas is one of 11 children of Andres Cardenas and Maria Quezada, who immigrated to the United States from Jalisco, Mexico. Tony attended the University of California, Santa Barbara, where he earned a degree in electrical engineering in 1986. Not bad for a young man from Pacoima, but Tony was only getting started. The Honorable Tony Cardenas, former member of the California State Assembly, the Los Angeles City Council, and the United States Congress for 12 years, the first Latino elected to represent the San Fernando Valley at both the state legislature and the House of Representatives in Washington. And I want to share another membership Tony Cardenas enjoyed that many here are not aware of. He is a founding member of a mentoring group of 9 elected officials who came together in Indianapolis during a meeting of the National League of Cities. We called ourselves, from that day forward, the Indy Group. Tony became a member of Congress. Another member of our Indy Group became a United States Senator, and you just saw him on the big screens, Alex Padilla. Having spent 40 years of my life in our nation's capital, I have witnessed firsthand the commitment of Tony to the Latino community, the city of Los Angeles, and the state of California, and our nation. In short, there is no one more worthy than Tony Cardenas to be given our Eagle Leadership Award. It's with enormous pride to introduce Tony, who will deliver keynote remarks followed by the award presentation. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Tony Cardenas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you so much, Mickey, my brother, my friend. You saw some pictures of me when I was little. But some things haven't changed since then. What you saw in those pictures when I was a little boy was a very, very insecure little boy. And insecurities are things that sometimes can get the best of us and bring out the worst in us. But luckily for me, I've been surrounded by beautiful, amazing people that I've been able to learn from, one person at a time, one day at a time, so that I could actually be a leader, not only a leader, but actually be chosen to be a leader among leaders. And with that, I'd like to thank Mickey for this opportunity to speak to all of you, and to thank you and everybody like us for everything that we've done for, not only for this great country, but for the world. We should be very, very proud to say, I am a Latino. And for those of us in the room who aren't Latino or Latina, you should be very, very thankful to understand that we're thankful for you for being part of our journey and understanding us and respecting us and appreciating us as we should all appreciate each other as human beings. Ruben Alvarez, congratulations. You've been given the mantle and tremendous responsibility. Along like many of the duties that you volunteer for, I'm sure the pay is amazing. But I'm sure your team is going to shoulder it with you and make sure that you keep delivering for your community and your business and your family and to this great organization, the Latino Leaders Network. So congratulations and thank you for all of your service. To Mayor Gallego, she had to leave. I know what it's like to be a local elected. Trust me, I was a city council member. And also to the council members in the room. I used to have a saying, and I meant it from the bottom of my heart. I said, I'm only a congressman. I used to be somebody. I was a councilman once. For those of you who, see? Council members in the room are like, yeah, that's where the rubber meets the road. So to Mayor Gallego, I appreciate her kind words, not only to us and for us, those of us who are receiving recognition today, but for all of us who are in the room to make this event so special. And also, I'd like to thank Governor Lewis. He's not from my state, and his people, his nation, is not near Los Angeles, where I was born and raised, and I've represented for 28 years. But I've seen him many times in Washington, D.C., and he said to me, I love you, and he called me his brother. And I say the same to him. Why? Because we understand each other, we respect each other, and we know that the fight for our people continues. Unfortunately, it continues every single day. And of all the people in this great nation, on this great land, who have suffered the worst and the most, and still suffer to this day, it's our Native American brothers and sisters. Laura, it was fun riding in the car with you yesterday for a couple of hours, learning about the local politics and the batallas that continue to go on. And believe it or not, even amongst that serious conversation, we laughed a lot. We laughed a lot. So it was really good to see you once again and to see you. And I served with your father, a great, great man. And much love to you and your family and to your continued service. Thank you. Secretary Fontes, thank you so much for bringing it every single day, and thank you for bringing it to this podium to tell us the truth, to tell us how ugly the times are today. And the saddest part about all of that, none of that needs to be true. But you brought the truth to all of our ears and hopefully to our hearts to understand that we need to, each and every single one of us, to do what we can, to do more, to stand up for our country, to stand up for our liberties, to stand up for our rights, to make sure that every single person who has the right to vote in this country as a citizen is not turned away or looked at the polls by somebody with a badge who intimidates them to think that, oh my God, I'm not going to vote today because that person might arrest me. Even though that humble, innocent American citizen has nothing to fear but the fear that people are trying to instill in them to make them feel like they are less than an American citizen, that they do not have that right. So you keep up that fight. And I'm going to let you know, I'm going to go to Washington. My roommate is still United States Senator Alex Padilla. And I'm going to let him know that y'all need to talk, because he was a Secretary of State for 8 years in California. And yes, I'm sure you know him, but y'all need to connect, because right now we need you to do what you can for each other and for all of us. So thank you, and congratulations on your recognition. Mickey told me, Tony, I want you to talk about you, your struggle, your life, you know, how you got to where you're at, etc. And I will do that, but I cannot even begin to explain that without thanking my life partner. 32 years she's put up with me as my wife, and 4 years before that as my significant other. So Norma, thank you so much for being with me on this amazing journey. For those of us who have ever served in office, you know that the people who suffer the most are our loved ones. And unfortunately, like the Secretary said today, and sometimes some ignorant people want to put our families in harm's way just because we're doing our job for the people. It's disgusting. It should never happen anywhere on this planet, much less right here in the United States of America. But I tell you, we should be worried, because this United States Attorney General is not going to protect us when people try to hurt people. If you're not wearing a MAGA hat, you are not going to be protected by this United States Attorney General. And for those of you who have an R next to your name or a D or an I or whatever when you go to vote, I am not being political and partisan. I am just telling you the truth. We have a United States Attorney General who believes that she is the protector of the President of the United States and the defender of anything and everything that him and his administration could ever dream of doing. She has bastardized her position in a way that is going to endanger the lives of, yes, some of us in this room. For those of you who have been blessed enough to have children, like my wife Norma and I, or blessed to have grandchildren, or even great-grandchildren, they too can be negatively affected on any given moment, on any given day, and they will not be treated as equals by our United States government, at least for the next 3+ years. I hope and pray that we endure this shameful time. I hope and pray that we come together and do what we can for each other, for our communities, to stand up when we see injustice, knowing that we might be harmed by just doing the right thing. Andres and Maria Cardenas came to the United States in 1946 because they looked around Temastian, Jalisco, Mexico, where they were born and raised. My mother was born here. My father was born and raised there. My mother, since the age of 3, lived there. And they only went to the equivalent of about the 2nd grade because in Temastian, Jalisco, there are no schools. So some unfortunate person, usually a young woman who knows how to read and write, the town leaders would say, "Mija, you know how to read and write?" And she'd say, "Yes, I do." "Or you're going to be the town teacher." I didn't sign up for this. Well, they would be the de facto educator for an entire village. So my mother and father only learned enough to read and write. And then they worked with the family since the age of about 6 until they got married and then looked around and said, nothing has changed. If we want to have children, we need to go elsewhere. And like many, many people who would prefer to stay in their homeland, come to the greatest nation on the planet, the United States of America. And Andres and Maria started in California. My father started as a farm worker, worked on the railroads, a little bit in the mines, all the work that nobody in the world wants to do. Certainly Americans shy away from that work. I know I, as an American citizen, I wouldn't want to do that work. And neither did my parents want the next generation to do that either. So they made a deal. My father said, "I will work and put food on the table. I need you to stay home so that we could raise a family." My mother said, "Of course." She got the toughest end of that deal because they had 11 of us. 11. Can you imagine cleaning up, running after 11 squinkles on any given day? Well, luckily, when you count 11, well, by the time the last one's born, the oldest one's 15. Oh, she can help with the kids, and the 12 and the 13-year-old. How many of you grew up in a family where you're at the age of 5 or 6 and you're actually carrying a little brother and sister in a diaper? Yeah, that was the Cardenas family. And guess what? It is a beautiful thing because it teaches you lessons of life, how to care for others, and unfortunately, how to grow up fast. But fortunately, how to not be intimidated by hard work, by not shying away from your duties and responsibilities. Now that you think that's good to know, that's how I was taught by my family, to be a partner within my family. But those are the kinds of skills, those are the kinds of traits, those are the kinds of values that you need to be a public servant, to be a good public servant. And I dare say, I don't think that the current president of the United States shares those kinds of values. When you really think about it. If somebody who knows how to care for a little one who can't care for themselves and learns how to do that at the age of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 and then grows to be an adult, do you think they shed that and then treat human beings and speak of women and immigrants and Latinos and Hispanics like we are dirt? No, I don't think so. But I would venture to guess that every single person in this room, because I know that you're here at the Latino Leaders Network Luncheon, that you share those values. Not only do you share them, but you carry them with you. And you're not about to violate those values that are part of who you are. So I'm blessed, I'm lucky. If you would ask any of my brothers and sisters when I was a little kid, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and you had them write on a piece of paper, where do you think Tony's going to end up? Out of kindness, they probably wouldn't have said he's probably going to end up in jail, because they knew that my father would not let that happen. He was a disciplinarian like no other. But they probably would say, if you gave him a list, like would he be a congressman, a legislator, a council member, et cetera, they'd go down the list, keep skipping that stuff. Well, maybe he can graduate from high school and maybe stay out of trouble. But I'm blessed because I grew up in a community just like this room. People who give their heart and soul to the little ones around them, who mentor people. Laura, I know you mentor people. I know your heart. I know you don't turn away from that call when you know somebody needs you, right? So I got lucky. I was the kind of kid that I would ball up my fist and hit somebody whenever I got angry. But luckily for me, if my father ever saw me do that to anybody, he would discipline me, and I would never do it again. But see, your parents aren't there when you're in school on the playground. So, you get in a little tussle with somebody, there you go, fighting, which isn't the right thing to do. So luckily for me, I had enough teachers and mentors and older brothers and sisters who said, don't do that. And honestly, it wasn't until I got to college, I was getting my engineering degree at UC Santa Barbara, still that angry, insecure kid, that I started to realize, and I had that aha moment. And I said to myself, wow, I get to be here, going to school where I can walk 2 minutes and be on the beach. And my government and my community is paying for my education. Whoa, am I lucky? And I was old enough to realize that my parents could not afford to even give me $100 or $10 to go to college. And my community provided that for me because my parents were not in a position to do that. And so goes the story for all of my brothers and sisters who went off to college as well. 6 older sisters, smarter than me. They should have been the council member. They should have been they could make it to governor, maybe even president. But no, because they grew up in an era where women were told, Mija, you don't need to go to school. Just marry a nice man and he'll take care of you. I see some of the women in the room nodding their head, yeah. Unfortunately, you were told that lie. I consider it a lie. No human being should say, well, I'm going to be an adult and I'm going to depend on somebody else to take care of me. Oh, Dios mío, what in the world? No, but that's a cultural thing. And it's many cultures, not just the Hispanic, Latino culture. It's many cultures. Women are treated differently than men. Even the American culture, women are paid about 60 cents on the dollar to do the same job as men. And Latinas, Native American women get more money per dollar for doing the same job as a white man in America, and Latinas get paid less. Latinas are the lowest paid in the country, statistically. I say those things to you because that is my story. My story is my sister's story. My story is my brother's story. My story is my brother, Alex Padilla, who is now the United States Senator. My story and his story are identical. Padres de Mexico, parents from Mexico, who came here with very little education and saw their children go to the most prestigious universities in the world and then eventually be able to represent our nation in our United States Capitol. Because of the values that we were brought up with, the values that were instilled in us, and the values that we carry in everything that we do. And when I say we, I mean we. Many of you I've met over the years, and some of you I've just met. But I believe in my heart that we have so much in common, and there is so much good in this room that I think that it's rooms like this, people like us, who are going to bring us out of these dark times, who are going to defend our neighbors and friends and strangers when we see injustice. And yes, sometimes at the risk of our own physical life, but we must stand up. As a congressman, I had the honor of serving with an amazing man. When you stand next to him or you just share a few words with him, may he rest in peace. He is one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met, John Lewis. John Lewis, a civil rights activist, while a teenager, who walked across the Pettit Bridge and was beaten almost to death, became a congressman. And every time I was on the floor of the House and that seat next to him was empty, I shook my head and said, I don't know about these mensos, but I'm going to go talk to John Lewis. I can't believe somebody's not talking to him right now. And I would sit down with him, and he would give me the most beautiful, amazing consejos, advice I could ever receive. And every once in a while, when the times got really tough, Leader Pelosi would ask him to come up to the front of the room and share a few words. And one of the things that he said on many occasions, he says, brothers and sisters, colleagues, sometimes you have to get into good trouble. And it's time that we get into good trouble. What did he mean by that? Walking across that Pettit Bridge was good trouble. They were not causing trouble. They were bringing attention to injustice in a righteous way. Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez, they believed in nonviolence. And they brought attention to injustice in a nonviolent way. What a great country we have when people are allowed to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going backwards right now. You're going to see over the next few days, over the next weeks, over the next few months, you're going to see and more atrocious actions by our federal government upon peaceful American citizens and others, non-citizens, who are just exercising their rights. And they're going to be denied. I don't think there's a person in this room, if 10 years ago somebody would have said to any one of us, those times are coming. 10 years ago, I think any single one of us in this room would have said, we would have scoffed. Ha, you're kidding. No way. Not in America. And here we are. And here we are. When a person could be so dismissive of what is good in America while running for president and get elected, that says just as much about that person as it says about too many people in our country. Our problem isn't one person. Our problem is us as a country. We've never truly reckoned with our past. We've never truly admitted what we've done to Native Americans on this land, committing genocide, nation upon nation upon nation. We've never reckoned with that. We've never reconciled in our hearts with that. What we've done at times in different parts of the world, enforcing our will, our military might for the wrong reasons. Oh, please believe me when I say this. Please believe me when I say this. I love my country. I am so blessed to have born and raised in this country. But it is my right to speak truth about what is good and what is not good about our great country. So yes, I consider myself a patriot, a word that has been bastardized over the last 8 years or so, but I consider myself a true patriot because I lead with love, I lead with respect, and I try to honor those around me and the communities that I've been so blessed to represent. So, Mickey, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so, so much. And Consul de Mexico, right here in Phoenix, thank you so much. I am going to come to Phoenix and get my dual citizenship at your office, okay? But I am not leaving my homeland. I am not leaving my country. I just want to make sure it's a little easier to go back and forth to visit my parents' home country. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, and have a wonderful day.